the Sanctuary of Light and the Light Institute welcome each and all of you to this time of knowings and invite you to be very informal and forthcoming with the conversations and questions that are dear to your hearts. And so we'll just open it up and see what's there for us to converse and to shift in this time of knowings. Yes?
I'd like to ask about forgiveness.
Oh, well, this is one of those places where I make myself most unpopular, and having finally mastered the fear of disapproval, I can speak about the conversation of forgiveness. From a spiritual level, it's a misconception. There is no one for you to forgive save yourself, because everyone that you have attracted to you, you have written the game plan. And so we like the concept of forgiveness because it allows us to go over and over and over why we are the abused, why we are the victims, why we must find the place in our hearts to let go of them, when in fact we need to let go of giving ourselves those experiences because we have lost the point of reference. It said, my blueprint, my purpose in this lifetime is to learn compassion. And so we forget that we could learn compassion without being abused, without being beaten up, without having somebody be the victimizer. And so anyone who comes close enough to you to hurt you and therefore be forgiven is someone that you have traveled with many a time and whom you have abused many a time. And so my higher self says that spiritual law is there's no need to put your attention on what the other guy is doing. What you need to put your attention on is what you are doing or feeling or knowing. And so if you stripped away all of the she did this, he said that, the other thing happened, and came back to the self and connected to your higher self, you could see even how you've created negative experiences in your life for your own growth, not to punish you. There's nobody out there punishing you, but for your own evolution. But simply that through the emotional DNA, you have forgotten that you could learn with grace. And so you get all your really close soul friends in here to abuse you, to say, if you must have that, I'll do it for you. It's against cosmic law, the law of permission. You know, certainly that we have in our sphere, in our astral sphere, to abuse on any level someone else. And so only those who love you could ever hurt you. And I learned this working with rapists and killers. It's quite an illumination for me. So we want to let go of, I'm the good Judeo-Christic person because I can forgive you. I don't think that was really the teaching. The teaching was to touch into the divine energy inside yourself. And with that, you can look about everyone else and everything else in life from a different perspective. One of the greatest teachings ever given to me from my higher self was, if someone hurts you, you must owe them something. You must owe them something. So instead of how they hurt you, put your attention on, I must have hurt you, so what do you need from me to balance that? What color do you need from me? A frequency of light, in order to rebalance between us so that you no longer need to see me in that negative way. So we could release the concept of forgiveness and move to a place of touching the self. Yes?
So, along those lines, if we're here to accept what is, I'm assuming, and that I'm open to
Yes,
looking
right.
at that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it ever appropriate to not accept?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Acceptance is an interesting conversation of the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. I would say we are here to perceive, to recognize that which is, but to go deeper than that. Why is it there? What is it, in fact? The visible and the invisible. so that we can define and recognize when the time comes for fighting, so to speak. And I don't mean that against something else. I mean that the yang energy that stands up and says, I am that I am. That says, no, you will not abuse me. No, this will not happen because I don't choose it anymore. It's only you that can unhook the contract.
And so would forgiveness apply to forgiving the self for allowing it to go weeks and months and years and decades?
Which to go weeks and
Abuse,
months.
apparent abuse.
Yes, but don't think of it as forgiving yourself in terms of allowing somebody to abuse you. Just change it. You see, the problem with us today is that we have placed spirituality into mental framework, from psychology and all those levels. What we want to do is to come to a place where we feel that point of center, that strength, that peace, that permission rather than forgiveness, that permission to say, I am that I am, and this is what I'm going to manifest. And if someone comes in and doesn't fall within that level, then you have your own permission to say, that's it, that's enough.
Thank you.
We can walk away, we can stand our ground, we can do all these things with grace. What we want to do is to learn how to do that from inside ourselves and not project it onto the other one. Because again, the other one is just the pawn in your movie. So you don't want to become the victimizer, beating them up, judging them. You simply want to say, I'm not playing. As soon as you're not playing, it stops happening.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So giving yourself permission to say no, and giving yourself permission to walk on, you know, to do what it is that occurs to you from your highest level. I think it's very important to always allow our higher selves to show us what it is that is the perfect response at any moment, and to be at peace with that. We spend way too much time saying, I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that, and why didn't I, the other, or those guys, and that kind of chatter poisons us. What we want to do, I like the spinning idea. If your mind is chattering, get your arms out and spin around. Within, I promise you, a second or two, the brain will stop chattering, and then you can sit down and breathe deeply and feel the peace and the vibration and the light of the cosmos coming into you. And that's how you stop the chatter and you become your true self. You have that clarity that says, this is what I do. And you can do it with a little cosmic humor. See, we have so many illusions about what is spiritual, what is the proper reaction to life, instead of a capacity to see the hologram. If we can begin to see that hologram, we see cause and effect, action and reaction. So we don't have to create karma because we fly off someplace, but that we come into that point of center, and from there comes our response and our choice. And that's what allows us evolution. Otherwise, we're just tiger chasing its tail. You do it, then they do it, then you do it, then they do it, and you're still working out whatever bothered you 20 years ago. We don't need that now. We really want to take wing. It's time to take wing.
I have one more.
Yes.
Can you speak about the relationship of service to serving self, either small s or large s, whatever, however way it's to be?
All the S's.
All the S's.
All the S's. Well, first I would say that the most important thing about service is that it comes from desire to do so, not from obligation. We have Judeo-Christic ethic that says if you serve yourself, that is in opposition to the world. Whereas if you heal yourself, you heal others. If you heal others, you heal the self. So our illusions of polarity are just that, they're illusions. Service is something that every little 2-year-old does naturally. Let me help, Mommy. Let me help, I can do it. It's a natural part of the human DNA. But when it becomes, if I serve, I will get kudos. You know, I will get patted on the back. I will go to heaven. I will get what I want. Then the service is just the illusions that you play in your life, and at the moment of your death, they will count nothing, and nobody's up there at the golden gates keeping score for you. And so, again, service is something that is easy and natural to us and should never be done out of any other self or selves or service to others. Should it never come but from that opening of the heart. You know, last week we meditated on these terrible things that are happening in Brazil. One of my facilitators is there, and it has so opened her heart because all the young people in Rio de Janeiro got together and just created. They didn't wait for the government. They didn't wait for the military. They didn't wait for the buses or anybody else. They just got together and they manifested tremendous. They got into places that the military couldn't get into to give people food, to take care of them, because their hearts, as the Native American would say, their hearts were good. And that's what service is. It's that spontaneous, I can do it. I see the way. I will. I will. And then the I will becomes 1,000 people saying it together and working together. And there's this incredible opening of the heart when we do things in that way. Otherwise, you can do just as much sitting at home. What color does this situation need from me? And you are giving the energy which will allow this beautiful synergy to occur when people come, a critical mass, the right time, the right place, the right stuff to manifest something that is a healing service on the planet. So it doesn't matter whether we take our bodies out there, whether anyone else sees us doing it or knows that we're doing it, but that we feel that powerful, spontaneous opening of the heart. And that is what creates service. And it's not the doing, it's the energy of the heart that brings the service. When we care, when it opens our heart and we're there and we're present and we're part of it, that's service. The rest of it is just, When I joined the Peace Corps, it was at the very beginning of the Peace Corps, and we realized through all the psychological testing that if anyone said, I want to serve the world, they typically didn't make it through the 2 years. And so that was actually a negative score for them. And we coined the expression to help others help themselves. You know, because if it's you thinking, I'm the good guy, I'm going to go out there and show the world, that idea usually doesn't last very long. About the first time you get a block, or someone doesn't want your help, or they see it differently, or they, to you collapse. So service is about the beauty of the human heart, and we have it. Every child has it. Yes.
Plus, by doing that, aren't we negating that they are also giving back to us?
Thank you.
In those situations.
Absolutely.
How much you must have learned in the Peace Corps from
That's
all
right.
those wonderful people that you worked
Absolutely.
with.
You can't compare what I gave and what they gave. It would never come into sync anyway, because they taught me death. And until you learn death, you don't learn life. You know, so there's no way to measure that except to be open and recognize that who the teacher, who the student. Always. Always. You know, I say the giver has the power, but we have to realize that receiving is a part of balance. And that's why when we do the light exercises, the color exercises at the Light Institute, what color do you need for me to come into balance? If it's something that has an emotional attachment, you always want to say, and what color do you want to give to me? Because we forget that when you allow someone else to bring light to you, you are giving them the power. And you are seeing them in spiritually in a balanced position. And that's very, very important as well. So thank you.
And
Beautiful.
the color ends drama quite quickly.
Yes, it does. It gets results. Not always the ones you're thinking of. But color will, because it is a speed. It's the speed of light. It will move things. That's for sure. Absolutely. Yes.
I'm reading your book, Soul Body.
Oh, great.
Me too.
I love that book myself.
Me too, and actually, I mean, when I read it,
Yes.
very galactical state.
Yes.
It's beyond the
Yes.
time. My question is, when we actually imagine the color, what is the meaning of each color? Can you?
You know, I think that's in one of my books,
Healing of
in
emotions,
the Healing of Emotion.
page 193.
And there's something that I would bring to that, so I'm so glad that you brought that up, which is that whenever you're extending color to someone else, you must allow them to choose the color. Because when people know, oh, red means this, and yellow means that, and green means that, they will often go, oh, you need this. I'm going to send you this. And then you are sending it, you're not even pulling it from the cosmos. Whenever you are sending it, you are entwining yourself in karma with them. And so many times people say, people are sucking on me, they're exhausting me. And that's the illusion of this dance. You and me in here. Now, you want to bring the frequency of light from the cosmos down and extend it out. And only the color that they choose. Because color is a language, it's a cosmic language. And so they are telling you about your relationship with them on any particular theme at that moment. Now, if you turned around an hour from now and said, and now what color do you need from me? You get a different color. Sometimes almost instantly you begin to send a color and suddenly you see another color or a rainbow. And it's because they are already receiving and they're adjusting and they're aligning. And it's that fast because it's light. And the body's made of light. And so our consciousness can wield light in those speeds. So, is there a particular color that comes to you a lot?
Depends on the person.
Or the one that you wondered what it meant?
Oh, well, I cannot see green lately.
Well, don't worry about
lot
that.
of red.
Lots of
and
red?
white.
And
blue.
Okay. So, green is the center color of the spectrum that we've been aware of. Now, all of us are beginning to see beyond that spectrum. That galactic energy, the angelic energy, brings phosphorescence, pearlescence. It brings overlapping, it brings pulses, iridescence that we haven't even seen before. But in our basic spectrum, green is the center, so it's the color of balance and healing. If it's a dark green, it could be money. So it can have, with all the shades, are different messages or different energies. But if you're not seeing green, that isn't the point right now.
Yeah.
And so if you're seeing a lot of red, red is the color of life force energy. People put their nose up at red because they associate it to sexuality, which is such a scary thing for most people, or anger, because it's that flashing, I'm visible. It's a very yang energy. But we all need that right now. We need to come into our bodies because it's through the vehicle of the body that we can be visible, the body can be healthy, and we can manifest. So that red is the life force energy. It's a good color. And of course there are many shades of red. There's tomato red, there's orange red, there's magenta red. And they all have different little whispers to them. And of course white is the fastest frequency because most whites are invisible to the human eye. They're so radiant, they're so fast that we can't see them, like radiation, which is destructive to us simply because we haven't quickened fast enough to be able to perceive it. I always teach my students to perceive radiation so that when you go into an area, like Los Alamos or California or Switzerland or Germany or various places around the world, you can perceive when there is radiation so that you can align your body to use it instead of it using you. And so it's very important for us to go beyond what we think we see. So there are about 200 tones of white. But white includes all color. That's why I love white. Because it says, I'm all. I'm a part of all of you. And that's an inspiring energy to carry with yourself. Now we know in Chinese medicine that it references the lungs. So someone might wear white and it might not be good for them because it might interfere with their lungs. So that's why it's very important to not say, oh, this means that, therefore I'll do the other. But to really allow your body. I always say to people, go into your wardrobe every day and say, what color do I need today? Let your higher self show you the frequencies of light that will support you. And that will change as your emotions change and as your energies change. But what we want to do is to go faster and faster and faster. Usually you can smell my peppermint oil when I come in the room, but sometimes you can smell the rose oil. I use the rose oil because it's the fastest frequency. And we want to lift up. We want to lift up. When we lift up, we look at the difficulties or the blockages, and they become small. And so we're able to be inspired by the self, rather than going, I would if I could, but because of the other, I can't. No, that's not what time it is. We were not born for I can't. Yes. What else?
Well, I do have something else, but in reference to galactic,
Yes.
I had an experience this summer where I looked at the sky and I saw something different.
Yes.
And I saw that the 3 stars of the Orion
Yes.
were the pyramids. And the Sirius, the star on the angle, brightest star, was the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the Big Dipper, and I saw that the Greek islands were the sacred sites and the handle, and the Arcturus was the Parthenon, the most perfect building. And I started to see the Pleiades were Hawaiian Islands. I started to see sacred sites in the stars. And I thought, what is this? Is this real? Am I making this up? And I spoke to a friend, and he said, look it up on the internet. And I typed in sacred sites and constellations. And there are books on this.
Yes.
Now, are these sites, okay, I have a couple of questions. You know, I've been to some of them, and no one can be dragging those stones. I mean, you know,
Exactly.
the crossbars across, where's the place in England?
Yes.
So, you know, no one said, okay, heave ho, that's just not possible.
That's right.
So, is it so that these are from off-planet, and are the crop circles the new imprint, the quicker, faster? Is it? Could you speak about any reference to anything here?
Do you have a day or two?
I do. I have the rest of my life.
At least a day or two. But the short of it, first of all, I'm smiling because I feel that suddenly occurred to you because a point of reference opened up. It ripened.
Yes.
It ripened. It's what I call critical mass. In other words, something created that point where you were able to see something you already knew. Who gave that information to the people that wrote those books? For all you know, your spirit did. Because remember that as the solar system changes, as new planets come along through eons of time, the whole construct of the constellations shifts, and our relationship to those constellations shifts. So in other words, the ancient Egyptians may have seen something different than we see today. And I think it's, let me say to all of you who have read all of the scary books about galactics or seen the scary movies about the aliens, that there is a cosmic law. And that cosmic law is that the Creator is changed by its creation. So if we are part of a galaxy, so we all have galactic DNA, so we've all had lifetimes that have been more expanded than the human perspective, that we ourselves have begun to change the consciousness of galactic groups, which therefore change the position of the stars. And in one of my books, one of my favorite exercises is to lick your index finger, pick a star, any star that you're attracted to, hold it up so that your finger is covering that star, take a deep breath and let the energy drain into you. And I'll tell you, that is a very powerful exercise. And it will align you, but it will also open that point of reference, that consciousness, so that you can know that you already knew what was in those books. We do not know. I'm doing a book on the brain right now. We do not know where imagination comes from. We have not been able, we can say, okay, advanced thought comes from here, emotional energies come from here, whatever it is, but we don't know how the brain hooks them up to invent something. We don't know. So, but what I could say is that we know because there really is nothing new in the cosmos and the universe. We have a point of reference in our genetic encoding. And at some point, it begins to come forward because we're ready to use it. Not to doubt yourself, but to say, what could it mean for me? How can I use it? How can I harvest it? Now, the one time that I was at a site in England, with the crop circles, it was very interesting. I would not say this is true of all of them, but I would say for many of them this is true. They were being created from inside, not from above. In other words, there was a higher consciousness that was working from the inside out, not from the outside in. And I know that there are many galactics who are living within our Earth. And for whatever purposes those are. And so I feel it's fascinating. I think there's almost nothing more fascinating than the crop circles, actually. They are beginning to use cosmic language now in speaking to us in symbols, in geometry, and in equations. First they just did a few little circles. Now they do very complicated things. They reproduce the Mayan patternings. They reproduce all kinds of patternings because they are attempting to show us something that my higher self has spoken of many times, and that is that there is no great civilization on this planet that has not been visited or has not awakened to galactic information because we have galactic DNA. What has happened is that there comes a time when that is open, when that threshold is open. For example, the Sphinx is very definitely one of those kinds of thresholds. So when that is open, all this new information comes. For example, the Incans were given corn. They were given brain surgery. They were given all kinds of things. And then the moment was done. The galactic frequency moved on to allow humans to use it. The humans could not find within themselves. They had it projected out. They could not find this capacity to take the information and create something new with it. And so they descended into, they lost the illumination and descended into the physicality and said, well, let's cut out the hearts, or let's destroy the bodies as sacrifice. That surely our human bodies are the only thing that are worth anything. Of course. Look where that got us. Look what it got them as well. And so, what we want to do is to, for example, if you're looking at a book with crop circles or something like that, just put your hand on it. Pick one. Say to your higher self, which one can speak to me? Pick one that seems to, you like the symmetry of it, or there's something that attracts you. Put your hand on it. Sit in meditation for a moment. You don't have to get some great illumination. Just let the energy move in through you. Always ask your higher self to help you choose it, however. You don't want to go back to some place. But putting your hand on it, and then that will begin to create critical mass, whereby the points of reference, the trigger points, whatever they are, will begin to build until you have a hologram. And then suddenly the aha comes. Suddenly you see what is true for that. It does not matter whether one person sees it one way and another person sees it another way, because we cannot know the infinite incarnations of the soul. At what place did you perform consciousness in any of those environments? You see?
Does the consciousness continue in the soul through different incarnations?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it evolves?
Yes. Absolutely. All creative energy. There is no one creation. All creative energy is evolving eternally. So there is no end. There is no God that is sitting up there in human form, sitting there. That is where that is the concept that we could hold. I wrote a book called The Evolution of God, saying, let us meditate, let us pray for the evolution of our Creator. If you see that as a masculine man, or you see it as a galactic, or you see it as a cosmic wind, but that it may eternally evolve, because as it evolves, you evolve. As you evolve, you support its evolution. You are inextricably connected.
So are the crop circles the highest form of evolution, 3D, you know?
I wouldn't say it's the highest. I wouldn't say there is such a thing as a highest. I think it's one of many formats to awaken human consciousness. I particularly feel that the whales, and I'm working on whale brains right now. Unfortunately, there's not very much information, so we're going to, again, we've gone many times, I'm going again to see if I can pick up some galactic whale connection through their brain portals that would support us, that we could utilize to be a template for our quickening, for our evolution. So I think that the crop circles are definitely a physical expression of higher consciousness. We were talking last week about the halo. You know, I wrote in the Soul Bodies about how you could create your own halo. And creating your halo will automatically shift you up into these higher astral, angelic heaven realms, which will again expand you. And same with galactic frequencies, the silver white. And so we have actually many forms of reference for that. If you studied plant shapes, as they did in the old days, you know, they thought that they were signatures. If a plant leaf looked like a heart, then it was good for the heart. Well, that again, who's whispering to us? Who's whispering, try this out, see if it's true. You know, there is consciousness in everything, and we haven't learned how to harvest it yet. But so, when we see something like that, it seems to be a miracle. The same thing as looking up and seeing ships, or seeing lights, or seeing constellations. We are seeing those in order to awaken. The Chinese medicine was correct. Everything is connected to everything. Einstein was correct. Relativity. Truth is always what it's connected to. What level are these things connecting? So much of these connections we just can't perceive because we haven't opened our 70 senses. We haven't realized that we can access, relate to, and harvest points of reference that have meaning. They're not just chaos. Chaos has meaning because there's magnetism connected to chaos. There's something that pulls it this way, and then that way, and then this way, and then that way. And if we could see the hologram, we would see what it's doing. What are those pathways creating energetically? And we can leap into that at any moment. So we can have human consciousness, galactic consciousness, angelic consciousness, devic consciousness, and we can expand truth and potential at any moment. All we have to do is focus there. It doesn't need intelligence, although I'm hoping to, through this book, Potential Brain, to play with our intelligence, that it's not just, can you figure out mathematics and that makes you smart? Can you understand language? Does that make you smart? But there are other aspects of intelligence. Because in truth, intelligence was always meant to be, can you solve the riddle? To solve, to bring the solution, you have to see it from many perspectives. You can't just see it from a flat surface. The same is true for crop circles, which are now appearing in water.
Really?
Yes, they've appeared in water in both the United States and Canada, and I forget where else, someplace else.
Is it solid, or is it just a
It
color,
just
or
creates.
what?
It just creates a pattern in the water, freezes up and holds there. Sometimes it starts out as just, you know how water will sometimes circle around or create a vortex, but then all of a sudden from the vortex that it creates, it will freeze into a pattern. And they've taken pictures of them. I have a beautiful DVD about crop circles, and it's just amazing. So they're beginning to appear in different media, in order, and certainly they don't all appear in cornfields or wheat fields, you know, they're appearing in grasses, they're appearing in lawns, they're appearing all over the place. And, you know, something is doing that. And that's why I feel it's so important to do that set of sessions, which we call soul bodies. By soul bodies, I was talking about our devic DNA. What are our imprints? What are our DNA patternings within the nature, or our angelic, or our galactic? Because once we perceive those, we can expand our repertoire so that we can see the pattern and the purpose. Because what is pattern? Pattern is just purpose in everything. And as we do that, not only will you see the constellations and as they relate, but you'll get messages and information that can allow us to go on from these civilizations that were never meant to be lost to us. They were meant to help us evolve. We simply were entrapped in it must be the gods. It must be something beyond the self, because we didn't remember our own genetic encoding or even our psychogenetic encoding. Yum. What a great time it is to be on the planet. Yes.
I work with people that are dying right now,
Yes.
and people always ask me, how can you do this? And I feel so different about that since I've been working with you for so long, that
Yes.
I feel like I'm helping them to move on to their next journey, their
Yes.
next, whatever they're doing next. And I'm called to assist them.
Yes.
Because so many people choose very, very difficult paths on this. I mean, they have diseases that are horrible,
Yes,
and
they
it
suffer
takes
so.
forever. And so I feel like I'm helping them with asking them what color they need, with my hands, with
Yes.
whatever
And you have
I
such
learned from
wonderful
you.
hands,
Yeah,
Jiva, you do indeed.
thank you.
And all of us can only say thank you to you. Talk about service.
Thank you.
Because being around people who are dying, it's just very, very difficult to be able to hold. This is a fully developed soul. And maybe they are suffering because they're waiting for their children or their grandchildren or their ex-lovers to let go of them, psychically, spiritually, you know, so that they can have balance, what could be balanced, what could be learned through their relationships in this lifetime, so that they're free. People will suffer and suffer and stay in body until there is that letting go. And so it is so crucial to have someone like you come along, and first of all, not being afraid of death. Once you've seen a little death, you know, it has various different expressions, but it's just the passing of the body. And once you yourself have felt, seen lifetimes and gone to the death in those lifetimes, you're free of the fear. When you walk in and put your hands on them and ask them what color they need, you're not afraid. And so, of all the people in their family who never speak to them about the fact that they're going to die any second, I'm amazed that people never talk to each other about death. They never say anything you want to tell me before you die. They never say these things, which would help the person die right away if they could just have the conversation, you know. So it's so wonderful for them to be in your presence, where they can feel someone who's not afraid, you know, whose energy is there, and so they can let go. I think it's a gift. It's a powerful gift. And, you know, all human bodies need touch. We need touch. Yes, you can touch yourself. Mwah! You can give yourself a little good juice. It's all right. The human body is more than flesh and blood, but it is flesh. And it needs to be touched. And people who have felt alienated from their family, and so many people today are dying of cancer, and there are many reasons for that. But cancer does have the etiology of I want out of my body. And so the Wei Qi energy does not protect the self, so whether that cancer is coming from environmental things or viral things or negative emotions, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's an evil Qi overwhelming you. So when somebody comes and can give loving energy to that body, it frees it. It releases it from all of that separation, from all of those thought forms and conclusions that a person may have been holding since they were a child. So it's a great gift to do that. So I think that I think it's just important that you get some energy from the cosmos, that you have a chance to
That's
be
what
in
I'm here
nature.
today.
Okay. That's all. Give her some energy. As we're talking, you just ask her what color she needs from you, draw it from the cosmos, and give it to her. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
just,
that you can feed yourself.
just do it.
No, she can't consciously tell
I
you.
can tell you.
You have to ask her in your
My higher
head.
self, ask my higher self.
She may not even relate to it. You know what color I just got from her? Cut glass. Cut glass on a diagonal. That has a relationship to interdimensional spaces. That's part of her strength, but that where she needs to be nourished from. And it had a little bit of this color that she's wearing. It had a little bit of color of that within it, but it was clear glass on diagonals, like cut glass. I don't have to know what it means. She doesn't have to understand it. All I have to do is ask her, draw it from the cosmos, and extend it to her. So as we're sitting here talking, you can just ask her what color she needs from you. Draw it in and extend it to her, just to support her.
And would the color that the person has already chosen that day be a symbol of what they really need?
Of course. Of course.
So this turquoise, this
This
beautiful
turquoise.
turquoise.
By the way,
white.
turquoise, that's more of a sea green than a turquoise, really. The scarf is more turquoise. This is more a sea blue kind of.
Yeah.
Can't think of the word for that color. Maybe it's
Aqua?
Aqua, but there's another word for it. Anyway, it has to do with the self. By the way, it has to do with the self. So it needs to support her. Turquoise is the color of protection and the sky color. That's why in New Mexico we give it so much value. The Native Americans have given it so much value. So the scarf has the turquoise, but I would say that the sea, this aqua, not quite aqua, whatever that color is, that she's wearing, is really a color that's wanting to nourish the self. But whatever color you get for someone, just extend it to them. Now again, they might show you a different color in just a second or two. It doesn't make any difference. But as you extend it, it helps them to open up and receive. Yes.
On a physical and mental level, explain to me, or all of us, about depression and what it does in the brain, as well as the...
Oh my, that's a conversation, because depression comes from so many different...
And
in other words, I think that there are many different triggers for depression. I think some of them are actually physiological. Because of a poor diet, you may not be getting enough oxygen into the bloodstream, into the brain, past the membranes to the receptor cells, so that the cells can be rejuvenated. They discovered in Mexico where the ambient oxygen level dropped from, it should be 23, 24, to sometimes 16, 15, 16. And at those times, birds fall out of the sky because they have no oxygen to breathe. And so sometimes people feel depression and anxiety, and they can't find the source for it. It's not because this happened, it's not because of that. It's just, look at that. You know, babies do that because they're only using the upper portion of the lungs, the lobes of the lung. And part of that may be the anxiety of being born, of taking that oxygen. And so that may be one thing. What are you or are you not doing that gets not only oxygen into the blood, but from the blood actually into the cellular level? Again, poor nutrition could block the neurotransmitters, so the brain is just like sludge. No, there's no great messaging going in there. The serotonin is not being transferred, so there isn't that sense of, I'm fine, I'm connected to the world, everything is going to be wonderful. There's nothing that gives that. So there are simple and many ways to deal with depression. I think that the worst way we deal with depression is giving people drugs.
Explain.
I don't think that's a good thing. Well, because if you have depression, something isn't balanced in your brain. Because a natural brain, a child's brain that's lit up, that can learn at the speed of light, that's the electrical currents are just flying around in there. There's no depression in a baby. There's no depression in a small child, because they're alert, because they're in their body, because they're paying attention to all the stimuli. So depression is something just clamping that down. So if you start playing around with the brain, we don't understand the brain well enough to be doing what we're doing with it. And that's why in Europe right now, they have outlawed many of the drugs that we use for antidepressants, because some people become violent, some people kill themselves. It's very common amongst young teenagers to destroy themselves when they're taking antidepressants. Sometimes people manifest, and here's the brain again, they manifest their worst nightmare. For example, there was a woman who drowned all her children in the tub. Well, she was on antidepressants, and she was the best, quote, best mother in the world. She did everything for her children, and she got on antidepressants, and suddenly she manifested her worst memory or worst fear. And one of the researchers who looked into that, who talked to her and looked into the drugs, was able to make that correlation between that and what her act. So the brain can trigger repetition, just like the emotional body. It can go through arcs. In all my books, I talk about the arc of time. Time is not in a continuum. So these arcs of time can bring us into our worst nightmare. And then we manifest it because we're numb. So we need to be present right now. We need to find other ways to stimulate. That's why I'm writing this book. Part of it will be about potential. You know, how can we be more telepathic? How can we bilocate? How can we do how can we activate our galactic energies? How can we talk to the cosmos? Some of it will be about Alzheimer's. Some of it will be about, getting rid of the things that make your brain numb. And so it is very important for us. And I would say also that we go through, around the world, we go through cycles. We went through cycles where the big boogeyman was the heart. Everybody's going to die of heart disease. And then everybody's going to die of diabetes. And then everybody's going to die of cancer. And as soon as we start doing this, we start creating it. So now, if you're not taking anti-anxiety drugs, you're hardly in the clan. Everybody thinks, wow, well, my doctor gave me antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs. And, yes. But somehow, are you connected to yourself? No, you're not. Some other energy is affecting your neurotransmitters, and you're not controlling it. It's not a great way to be.
How do you get off of them?
Well, you can't just say, I don't want to do it anymore. That's for sure. We have in the office the name of a person. You can look her up on the internet. She did a beautiful book. This is the same researcher. She's a PhD researcher talking about all of the drugs, the mind drugs, and how to get off them, which ones cause whatever. I just ordered it because I've told so many people about it, and nobody seems to. It's interesting to me that people who have depression or are taking anti-anxiety drugs, they never get around to getting the information. So who's running the show in there? Who's running the show? Because for me, if you have a symptom, if you have a disease, if you have a symptom, you should be running in every direction. What's the emotional cause of that? What's the nutritional cause of that? What's the electromagnetic cause of that? What's the spiritual cause of that? So that you can free yourself. But there are these little voices inside that say, nah, don't do that. Can't get around to it right now. So anyway, you have to be careful how you do it, because it's an addiction. Anything that you're feeding your body and your body doesn't have any choice in it becomes an addiction. And certainly anything that crosses the blood-brain barrier into the brain is going to stimulate a groove, a patterning. And you're going to, part of you, your emotional body part, is going to begin to whisper to you, yeah, just get some more of that. Because our emotional bodies aren't interested in us being illuminated. They're just interested in the biochemistry we produce when we're depressed, when we are angry, when we are fearful. All of our emotional states create biochemistry, and the brain becomes very addicted to that. is not interested in the who am I. And neither am I, actually. You know, there used to be the great thing of the spiritual quest to find out who you truly are. My higher self said about 10 years ago, oh, skip that stuff. You're changing every moment. So if you identify I am, you're going to probably start getting yourself into a groove that's not going to serve you. So what you want to do is to begin to applaud. I have a puppy right now, so I'm really into this concept, like Pavlovian reward system. You're going to begin to choose who you want to be. What does it feel like when you're joyous? What does it feel like when your heart's open? What does it feel like when you feel pleased with yourself? When you're not looking around for someone else to say, oh, you're depressed, or you have this sickness, or you are that way. Anytime anyone starts going, you always, or you are, just turn that one off. Just turn that one off and ask your higher self, what's the most beautiful attribute I have at this moment? So I'd like to do a little exercise right this moment for you to touch that. It's one of my favorite things when I'm doing consultations. I usually do it the inner child, because our inner child is where we are forming our sense of self. We form that sense of self through our parents' perspective, through our siblings, through our teachers, through our environment when we're very, very small. Is this little child too nervous, too overactive, too rebellious? We start labeling people before they can hardly walk, you know. And so we'll use the inner child. And when I'm talking about the inner child, I am talking about that perfect part of you as you as a child, but you as a child connected to the cosmos. Not the part of your inner child that thinks she's not loved or didn't get hers or his or etc., etc. Not that part, but the part of you that was fascinated by life. No limitations. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath into your body. Now ask your inner child to take form. The wisest person you'll ever know. And see that inner child. It might be a baby, it might be 2, it might be 6, it might be 8, it might be 4. Just allow your inner child to take form for you in all its beauty, in all its wisdom. And ask your inner child to show you a beautiful attribute or quality that you brought into this world as a fully developed being, as a fully developed soul, from the infinite incarnations of your soul. What is a quality that you brought before you were conceived into this life? And just, you might hear a word. It might be love, it might be creativity, intelligence, humor. Makes no difference. Just give the one word. And whatever that word is, just echo that word through the trillions of cells of your body. Allow your body to hold that vibration. You don't have to struggle for that. You don't have to hide it. It's yours. So as you feel that vibration of that quality flowing through you, radiate it out from your body through your auric field as a message into the world. This is who I am. This is a gift that you've brought. Nothing can destroy that. Nothing you do can change that. It's there. It's only waiting for you to use it. Breathe in. Feel it nourishing you and radiate it out. Breathe deeply and open your eyes. What's the word you got?
Sight.
Sight? Sight? What a fabulous word. You know that we have 5 senses of sight. And we have sight through our skin. I used to work with the blind. They could see through their skin. So you may have auric sight. You may have telepathic sight. You may have creative sight. You know, what a gift. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I had always thought that we would go in the direction of whales, that we would become more holographic. What I'm seeing through iPads and internet and computers is that we're becoming more visual. So when I do this book, Potential Brain, it's going to be 50% visual.
Okay.
I'm looking for the visual expression of our brains, of our consciousness, of our alignment to our true self. So I think sight is, that pretty much says it all. Thank you. What else?
While I'm reading your book, Soul Body, I feel very free and very quickly.
Yes.
It's very freeing book. And you wrote that the body is the reflection of the soul.
Yes.
Which I love, and of course I look at my ears and eyes and nose and
Yes.
into my face. However, I have a question when you die
Yes.
and your soul is released.
Yes.
Are we somehow just like, is it the same soul which will reincarnate? Or are we somehow, all those molecules are mixed up? And
Yes. Well, the soul, remember, is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
What doesn't evolve so quickly is the spirit, and the spirit is attached to the emotional body. So it holds the memories, and it comes in with personality. So it comes in with more structure. The soul has no structure. So when you disintegrate the body, it returns to its source, which is pure energy. You are pure energy. And that's why you can change your body, you can heal your body, and you can look totally different. When people do soul bodies, they often come out looking completely different, the structure of their face, as well as when they do psychogenetics, when they actually move what's stuck that's created the structure and move it into pure form. So you've been a male and a female, you come from the blue-green algae, you come from the light of the solar system and beyond. And so all of that goes beyond molecular structure. It's the essence energy, but it has attraction and it can come into form, and it will come into form depending on its choosing. It individuates in a form that supports its evolution, and that's the truth. So let us free up our forms and feel the power to be who we truly are. Great love to you all. Great love.